What is up, guys? Aaron here, Curls on the Rack. Thank you for returning for another video, or if this is your first time here, welcome. Today's video is going to be part 2 to the video that I did yesterday, which was making a lever arm attached GHD setup. Today's video is going to be making a standalone foot plate for that setup, and without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so I just got back from Home Depot. I went ahead and picked up a 2x6 for 10 bucks. It's much more than we're going to need for this build, but I'm sure I'll use it on a future project. I also have some grip tape here, which you could use for, say, stairs, outside deck stairs or something like that, skateboard, whatever the case may be. We're going to use that for the foot plate. And also, I have a piece of metal here that we're going to use. Ultimately, we're going to make some brackets that go over the top of 3x3, and so you can bolt it in, and then you'll be able to put on your rollers and you'll be good to go. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to, and so that's why I like it. You know, if you don't need to get it out, why get it out? And if you like this format that I'm doing in this video, where I kind of just don't know what I'm doing and we're going to go through it and hopefully it turns out well, let me know in the comment section, and I can do it more like this rather than voicing over all the footage after the fact. So let's get to this and cross our fingers. All right, so basically what we're going to do is we are going to make 2 foot plates out of this, each 14 inches, because I measured from the top and the bottom of the other foot plate. They are 14 inches, plus we need a gap in the middle, so I'm not going to go all the way across with the foot plate. We need to be able to put the rollers on in the middle, and they need to clip onto the upright as well. So we're going to do 2 measurements here, one at 14 and another at 28. And we're going to cut these guys with our chop saw, and we'll be good to go. Alright guys, so now it is time to finally make the bracket for the boards that we cut out. Now, I went ahead and measured these guys for the width, and I think 17 inches is going to be perfect. That's where my feet are going to be. And so what I've done is I've got some angle iron here, which we're going to use to attach these together. And then I have some mild steel, just a straight piece, which is what we are going to use to make our brackets, and also a piece that goes on the back side to attach our brackets to. So if this goes well, it should be pretty sweet. Now, we're also going to use that grip tape on the front, and we are basically going to make a casing around the wood to make it look pretty official, and then have that grip tape on the front. So who knows how it's going to go, but let's try it anyways. Alright, so I went ahead and measured these guys 17. We did another 17 over here. That is going to be the portion that is going to go on the bottom and the top portion. So let's go ahead and cut these, put that together so we kind of have our grid developed, and then we will go from there. Alright, so now that we have our 2 pieces cut out here, I'm essentially going to put some pilot holes in here, and I'm going to attach these to the wood. That way I know what I'm working with for the back side, and it's going to be easier to work with it. Then I'm going to go ahead and remove those screws, and I'm going to put the grip tape on these guys. So you're not going to see any wood. It's going to look a little bit better. And then we will work on the back plate, and then also we're going to put our brackets, which I'm going to have to make from scratch because I don't have any more brackets, but it shouldn't be the end of the world, and it should work out perfectly. Okay, so now that we have our bracket cut out, holes drilled, and then I just pre-put in the screws just to make sure that it was going to hold up pretty nicely. We're going to take this flat piece of steel, we're going to cut it the same length. We're going to make 2 of them for the back side, and then I'm going to put some brackets on here that will secure to the rack. So let's do that. All right, so I'm all about using things that I already have. I happen to have already a piece of metal with a 5/8 hole in it, so I'm going to use that as one side of the bracket, and the other side I am going to use this one as a template to drill through, and so I'll have the same hole on the other side that line up here. Then I will cut them off and put them onto the piece of metal that we have going on the back side of this, and so that way we can make sure that it lines up perfectly. And I have a piece of scrap 3x3 out there, so when I weld it, I'm going to use that to make sure that it's all perfect. All right, so now that we have one of the holes drilled, and you got the other one here, I go ahead and pin it. That's why I always like to have a scrap piece around, because I'm going to use this to weld on to make sure it's perfect, because sometimes I don't trust my measurements. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to mark over here, and I'm going to give a little bit of room just in case I want to throw a piece of UHM plastic, just in case it has a little bit of wiggle room here. But we're going to be attaching it in 2 places anyway, so it's really not going to matter. And then I'm going to cut these guys, and then I'm going to put the piece in here. We're going to weld it, and I'm going to have it pinned while I weld it, and then I will touch up all the edges, and it should be good, and we'll repeat the step for the bottom portion. All right, and the next step was just to mark a line in the middle of the bracket portion that we're going to be using to put these brackets onto, and then measuring, and I just estimated by putting the 3x3 down here where we want them to line up. I'm going to go ahead and line these up, and then we'll get out to the welding. Now, my original plan was to go ahead and use the metal bender and bend some brackets out of this one piece, but it's held up pretty well for my articulating pulley system, so I'm going to do it this way, which is the same way I did it with that one. Now, I have it on here and I have it clamped down on both sides, because when you weld the metal, if it heats up and it bows at all, we don't want that. So I want to make sure that it stays flat down. I'm going to tag it here, and then I'm going to tag it on the other side, tag it here, tag it there, make sure that it doesn't bend, and then if it looks good, I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of the welds on the outside and the inside. Okay, so and the reason that I went ahead and made these brackets to fit on this hole and this hole is because I need to be able to put the roller through the middle of this guy, and ultimately your rack may not look like this, but my rack is from the RML folding rack, and so it doesn't have all the holes on the side like you see on a standard rack. So the idea is I'm going to be mounting the two brackets that we just made that go over the upright to this guy. that way I put it on first, and then I put the rollers on in the middle, and they are two separate pieces, and I don't need to use it when I don't want it. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna leave it up here. I'm gonna clamp it where I want it, make sure everything is straight, everything lines up still, and then I will screw it, or make some pilot holes rather, from the back side, making sure that the bracket goes in, comes off, and goes on easily, and then I will go ahead and do the grip tape on the front here. All right, guys, so now that I have everything all dialed in, clamped down on all sides, evened out as well as it can be, I realize that there's a little bit of metal sticking out, but I plan on taking out any of the sharp edges after the fact, so that is fine. I'm gonna go ahead and do it up on the rack here because I already have it pinned. Wherever I put these initial screws will ensure that I can pin and unpin these things safely and they won't move. Then when I get all the pilot holes drilled, I'll put some screws in here, and then I will take it down and put some bigger bolts in here, probably some medium-sized lag bolts, just to make sure that it's super secure on there. So let's go. All right, full disclosure time. I came back to the front of this guy and I used my step bit to countersink some of these holes, just so these screw holes, or the heads of the screws, would flush up with this guy, because I didn't want anything protruding. I want to get it as flush as possible. And now it is time to go do a little cleanup work. So as you can see, it sticks over a little bit over here, a little bit over there. We're going to go ahead and sand the sides down so they look nice, and make sure everything is nice and even, and then we will go ahead and put the grip tape on here, and then maybe we might put some angle iron on the sides here just to make it look a little nicer, maybe in the middle here. I'm not sure yet. This is just kind of the process I go through when I'm building something. Let's see how it goes. All right, so now that we've gone ahead and we've shaved down all of the sharp corners and got rid of any of the extra metal off here, and it's looking real nice, I'm gonna go ahead and remove these two brackets because it's secured on the other side. And then we're gonna put the grip tape on here and then put these guys back on. I do think that I am going to add a piece of metal right here and right here just to make sort of a frame for these guys. I think it'll look better. Not needed, but we're gonna do it anyways. All right, so I did not have enough angle iron to make it to the end of all these. As you can see, I have a little bit of gap down here at the bottom, so I have a little piece left over from the other piece of angle iron. I'm going to attempt to go ahead and cut out tiny little pieces here and maybe weld them together. Then I will file it down so they eventually look like they were all one piece, because I don't really mind showing you guys my mess ups. I think that's kind of what this is about. It wasn't really a mess up, but kind of how if you're going to build something, you can always pivot and fix something or figure something out after the fact. And so that's why I'm kind of doing this video like this. So I'm gonna go cut that stuff, and then we will try to make it all flush and look a little bit better. And then we will go ahead and paint all the wood, and I think it'll look pretty cool after it's all done. Okay, so now that I was able to notch out a couple little pieces that would fit into these gaps and just fill the space a bit more, I'm going to go ahead and weld those pieces on. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and spray paint all of the wood portion. I'm going to disassemble this whole thing, and I'm going to spray paint the wood portion just because I'd rather it look black than have the color of, you know, wood. So I'm going to go do that, and then while it's drying, I will work on welding these pieces onto here, and then I will make them look as if they were part of this one piece. All right, guys, it's finally time to paint all of our pieces here. I'm going to paint the middle portion of this guy. I'm going to paint this guy where all the welds are, and the fact this is red and it's, you know, been welded on, it's got some burn marks on it. And I am going to paint our foot plate. Now, if you haven't seen the first portion of this video, for some reason you stumbled across this one and you didn't see the first part, I'll put a link in the description, which is where we took the Rogue Echo GHD foot plate, we cut it up, and we made it into two separate pieces. Now, another thing is, you might be saying to yourself, why didn't you keep this piece just together and then just make this piece and put the pads on these pieces? Well, the truth is, I don't trust this piece to be supporting my full weight. And so that's why I would rather go with this piece to be laying on top of than this piece. This piece is just a foot plate. It's just, you know, your body is, when it goes back with some sort of force, your foot, or rather your feet, might go into it a little bit. I trust it, but I don't trust it as much as this one, and that's why I did this. And so let's go ahead and paint. Then I'll start welding this guy over here, and we will put it all together and see how it looks. All right, so now that I have the little pieces of metal welded back onto these guys, it kind of flushes them up and there's no gaps at the bottom. My next step is going to be, I'm going to drill holes either in the side or probably on the front, maybe in the side. Okay, so instead of going on the top portion of it, I've decided to go ahead and drill on the side portion of it just to hide, you know, any screws that we don't have to see. Why would we want to see them? So I'm going to drill some pilot holes on this guy, and then I'm going to use my step bit to make it so that the head is flush with the metal, just to hide as much of the unnecessary protrusions as we can. Final step is to go ahead and just paint these guys. Now that we have everything all lined up, we have our pilot holes drilled in the wood, we made sure the screws go in. Now it is time for the final step, and this thing should be good to go. as you guys saw, it went pretty smoothly. It works effectively, and I really enjoyed making it, and also showing you guys the process that I take when going through and making it. If you do like this sort of format where I sort of just roll the camera and we go through the whole sort of setup, and I can kind of talk when I need to say something or whatever is going through my head, let me know and I'll do it like that rather than voicing over them. On the next video, I'm going to be reviewing the Vendetta Strength lever arm brackets, which are awesome, and I have a lot to say about these things, so there's so many possibilities. So on the next one, hopefully I'll see you there. Like, subscribe, and peace.